John was a proud veteran who had dedicated years of his life to serving his country. He wore his uniform with honor and loved sharing stories of bravery and camaraderie with his family. After returning home, John faced challenges that many veterans often struggle with. His time in service left him with physical limitations that made daily tasks harder. This day marked an important moment for John. He was visiting the DMV to apply for a disability tag for his car. The tag would not only provide practical assistance, making it easier for him to park closer to buildings, but it also represented recognition of his sacrifices. As he walked into the bustling office, he felt a mix of hope and anxiety. The walls were adorned with motivational posters, reminding all to serve each other with respect. John approached the counter, his heart racing with anticipation. Little did he know that within moments, his long-awaited quest for the disability tag would take an unexpected turn, setting off a series of events that would leave him feeling frustrated and confused. As John stepped into the DMV, he took a deep breath and surveyed the bustling room. The air was filled with a mix of chatter, phone ringing, and the sound of keyboards clicking. He squeezed his ticket tightly, feeling like it represented not just his request for a disability tag, but also a step toward reclaiming some independence. John watched as people ahead of him completed their tasks, exchanging smiles or frowns depending on the outcome. He noticed an elderly woman struggling to stand while waiting for her number to be called. His heart went out to her. He understood how difficult it could be at times. After what felt like an eternity, John's number was finally called. With determination, he approached the counter. The clerk greeted him with a polite smile, but quickly shifted to a serious tone as he began reviewing John's paperwork. John explained why the disability tag was crucial for him, hoping that sharing his story would help convey its importance. But as the clerk's eyes scanned the documents, John sensed that something wasn't right, and an unsettling feeling washed over him as he awaited the decision. As the clerk finished reviewing John's paperwork, he looked up with a serious expression. "I'm sorry, but I can't approve your request for a disability tag," he said, his voice flat. John's heart sank as he felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. "Why not?" he managed to ask, struggling to keep his composure. The clerk explained that there was a lack of sufficient documentation proving his disability, despite John's attempt to clarify his situation. He felt a mixture of frustration and sadness as the words echoed in his mind. After serving his country, he had hoped for some understanding and support. Instead, he felt like just another number in the system. Feeling the stares of others in the office, John forced himself to respond calmly. "I have physical limitations from my service," he insisted, sharing how these challenges affected his daily life. But the clerk remained unmoved, citing regulations that made it clear John's situation did not meet their criteria. With disappointment heavy in his chest, John walked away from the counter, feeling defeated and confused about what to do next. As John stepped away from the counter, a wave of frustration washed over him. He couldn't believe how quickly hope had turned to disappointment. The bustling DMV now felt suffocating, and he fought to contain the emotions welling up inside him. Why was it so hard for them to understand his situation? He had fought for his country, yet he felt like no one was fighting for him now. John paced in the lobby, replaying the conversation in his mind. He imagined explaining his challenges again and again, hoping that someone would finally see the truth of his circumstances. Each step seemed heavier than the last as he thought about the people relying on him to succeed in this mission. The denial of the tag wasn't just about a piece of paper. It was about dignity, recognition, and support for all that he had sacrificed. He glanced around at the other customers, wondering if they could sense his inner turmoil. It felt unjust that a simple request turned into such an uphill battle. With determination building inside him, he vowed to find a way to make his voice heard, refusing to let this setback define his journey. Just as John's thoughts spun with frustration, an unexpected commotion interrupted him. The door swung open, and a group of federal officials entered the DMV, their demeanor serious. John watched as they moved through the crowded lobby, exchanging stern glances with the employees behind the counters. The atmosphere shifted. A palpable tension filled the room as people murmured in curiosity. The officials wore navy blue jackets that announced their authority, and John couldn't help but feel a sense of hope spark within him. Maybe they were there for veterans like him, ready to address the issues he had just faced. As they approached the front desk, their presence seemed to command attention, momentarily overshadowing the stress of the typical DMV experience. John continued to watch from a distance, his heart racing with anticipation. This chance encounter could mean something significant for veterans battling bureaucracy. However, just as quickly as that hope blossomed, uncertainty crept back in. Would they truly understand his frustrations, or was this visit merely a routine inspection? In that moment of waiting, John felt a mix of hope and apprehension as he contemplated what might happen next. As the federal officials began speaking with the DMV staff, an odd tension permeated the air. John could sense the unease among the employees. They whispered nervously to one another. To John's surprise, after only a few minutes of conversation, one of the officials stepped to the front of the office and raised his hand for attention. "Attention, everyone. We will be closing the DMV for the day," he announced firmly. The room erupted in murmurs and shocked expressions as customers exchanged confused glances. John felt a mix of resignation and curiosity wash over him. Was this closure a direct result of their discussions about improving services for veterans? The staff hurriedly began packing up, and John watched as people started to leave with their requests unfulfilled, including his own. Frustration bubbled up again as he realized that not only was he denied his tag earlier, but now he wouldn't even have the chance to appeal or seek further assistance. As he stepped outside into the fresh air, John's mind raced with questions and possibilities. What would happen next? Would this be the moment when change finally began for veterans like him? As the news of the DMV's closure spread, a wave of frustration washed over the other customers waiting in line. Many were veterans like John, who had come with hopes of resolving their own issues. Confusion filled the air as people exchanged worried glances, wondering why they had been left without any support after waiting so long. An elderly man muttered under his breath about the lack of respect for veterans, while a young mother with a toddler in tow sighed in defeat. She had been waiting to renew her driver's license, and now she was faced with the hassle of returning another day. The once busy lobby that thrived on activity now bristled with disappointment and impatience. John overheard snippets of conversations around him, stories of lost time and mounting frustrations with bureaucratic processes. He realized that he wasn't alone in this struggle. Others shared the same sense of helplessness. This situation had become more than just his personal battle. It highlighted a larger issue affecting many who relied on these services. With renewed determination, John thought about how they could unite their voices to demand better treatment and support for all veterans and customers alike. The following days after the DMV incident, John couldn't shake the feelings of frustration and confusion. He decided to take action, reaching out to local veteran organizations for support. They listened to his story and shared similar experiences, which only deepened his resolve. One evening, John attended a community meeting where veterans gathered to discuss their challenges. He stood up to share his ordeal with the DMV, emphasizing how vital it was for them to have access to necessary resources. The room filled with nods of understanding as others recounted their own struggles. Inspired by this connection, they began brainstorming solutions together. With the help of the organization, John learned about the proper documentation needed for his disability tag application. He also discovered that there were advocacy groups ready to assist veterans in navigating bureaucratic hurdles. Feeling empowered, he prepared to return to the DMV with renewed determination and a clear plan. This time, he knew he wasn't just fighting for himself. He was advocating for all veterans facing similar battles. With support from his community backing him up, John felt a sense of hope as he prepared for what lay ahead. As John reflected on his experiences, he couldn't help but think about the broader implications of bureaucracy and how it often neglects those it is meant to serve. His journey through the DMV highlighted a frustrating reality. Systems designed for efficiency sometimes overlook individual stories and needs. Veterans like him should be given the support they deserve, not pushed aside due to paperwork issues or insufficient documentation. John realized that many veterans face similar challenges, feeling lost and powerless against an intricate web of rules and regulations. The lack of empathy in such institutions can lead to feelings of isolation, as if their sacrifices are not fully acknowledged. He had initially felt like just another number in a system that seemed indifferent to his plight. This reflection ignited a sense of purpose within him. It was clear that advocacy was essential, not just for himself, but for all who struggled with the same issues. John envisioned a future where the bureaucratic processes were streamlined and more accessible, ensuring that every veteran's voice was heard. He felt a responsibility to push for change, striving to make the system more compassionate and responsive to those who had served their country. As John prepared to take action, he recognized that his journey was more than just about obtaining a disability tag. It was about advocating for all veterans who faced similar struggles within a complicated system. He envisioned a future where veterans would not have to navigate these bureaucratic hurdles alone. It was clear to him that raising awareness and promoting change was essential. John called on his fellow veterans and community members to join him in this mission. Together, they could advocate for reforms that would make the process more accessible and compassionate. He encouraged everyone to share their stories, highlighting the importance of personal experiences in creating real change. By uniting their voices, they could demand better treatment and ensure that no veteran felt unheard or overlooked. This movement could inspire local and national leaders to take notice and implement the necessary changes. John urged all veterans and supporters to reach out to their representatives, participate in advocacy groups, and attend community meetings. By standing together, they could transform the system into one that truly recognizes and honors the sacrifices of those who have served. John believed that together, they could create a brighter future for all veterans facing similar battles.